Welcome back. In this video, we are going to talk about the Kubernetes master component, the Kube-API server. The Kube-API server is a key component for the Kubernetes control plane. It is responsible for exposing the Kubernetes API. Think of the Kube-API server as the main gatekeeper for your Kubernetes cluster. It manages the state of the cluster by receiving and processing requests to create, modify, delete Kubernetes objects like pod, service, deployment. The API provides a RESTful API, which means it uses standard HTTP method like get, post, put, delete. This makes it easy for the client to interact with the cluster. One of the key roles of the Kube-API server is to authenticate and authorize the request. For authentication, it supports various methods like client certificate, token, OpenID Connect, etc. API server also checks if the user has a right permission to perform the requested action or not. Another important function of the Kube-API server is admission control. The Kube-API server uses admission control plugin to validate and modify requests before they are saved in etcd. Kube-API server ensures high availability. The Kube-API server can run multiple instances behind a load balancer. It also uses techniques like leader election to make sure the API remains accessible even if the instance fails. Quick example, imagine you want to deploy a new application. You use kubectl to send a request to the Kube-API server to create a new deployment. The Kube-API server first authenticates your request, check the permission, validate the request, apply any admission control policies there, and store the new deployment in the etcd. After that, it communicates with other components to start running application on the worker node. That is the overview of the Kube-API server, a critical part of the Kubernetes master component. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next.